The writer of Attack on Titan is an absolute political genius. I mean, he definitely understands real life politics and takes that understanding, puts it into the manga, and creates something amazing. And I want to show you what I'm talking about. So, here you have something quite usual on Twitter. Like, this is not something out of the ordinary. You get a blue check mark that says petition to put cis white dudes on a barge and float them out on sea. Now, obviously, if anyone would say something like this about any other group of people, they would immediately get banned. Like terms of service violation, hate speech. I mean, you can't even joke about these things. Like, you can't even say, oh, well, I'm just making a joke or I'm kidding. Even metaphors or anything like even closely related to something like this would get you banned from Twitter. But you have to take into account two things, right? Like, number one, that this person is a blue check mark, which allows them to get away with a lot of the other things that normal people wouldn't be able to get away with. Think about it like a blue badge, like there's some sort of nobility, like they have blue blood and they're able to bend the rules and do things that normal people wouldn't. And the second thing is that Twitter is a radicalizing machine. It pushes people to be completely unhinged sociopaths because you get placed into this group where if you say things like this, you get 3,000 likes, 404 retweets. And again, like, this is done on purpose. This is what Twitter promotes. It monetizes this hatred. Like, again, for these people, like, this is the enemy, right? This is the enemy. This is the devil. This is the demon. And anything they say to combat the evil is promoted. Anything you say to defend the evil is white supremacy and gets banned, right? But this is not the interesting part, because throughout human history, understanding that racism exists or that there are bigots out there that are willing to hate other human beings because the way they are born is not something that requires a deeper philosophical understanding. You just look at history and you notice it. What does require a deeper philosophical understanding is the creation of the second individual, right? Now, this is one of the evil people, right? This is one of the devils, the cis white dude that is the problem. And he says that he will contribute and have to get on the damn barge as well if it means making sure the others stay on it, and it will be worth if everyone else in the world doesn't have to deal with us. Okay, so this is now something peculiar. It's something bizarre because you're advocating for the harm, not just for yourself, but your family members, like your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, like everyone that is close to you should be persecuted because of the way they are born. And it's very difficult to try to understand that such people exist, like they justify for the oppression of themselves and other people like them, and they would even accelerate it if possible. Now, there are two explanations for this. One is the simple one, is that, well, when persecution is upon a group of people, some people try to escape the persecution by becoming persecutors themselves, hoping that they will be persecuted last. And you get to see this with the death camps in Nazi Germany. The Nazis realized that it's a lot cheaper to use the prisoners to police themselves. So they would have these members of the prison called capos. Usually these would be hardened criminals or, people that were very brutal in nature. And they would get some position of power over the other prisoners. And in exchange for more food, better clothing, plus the status, they would oppress other prisoners, which creates this very interesting role of those people being oppressed and oppressors at the same time. But I don't think like this kind of explains what's going on. You see, what really is going on is what the writer of Attack on Titan manages to understand, is the weaponizing of history in order to get people to justify their own oppression. So in the case of Attack on Titan, you have two groups of people that are in the forefront. You have the Eldians and you have the Marleyans. Now, both of these people are equally bad. Both of these people have created empires, and both of these people have done genocide, and both of these people within the story have behaved like humans. Human beings have qualities and have detriments. If a person would only have qualities, they would transcend humanity. You wouldn't say that it's a human being. It would be something else, an angel. It just doesn't exist. And what happens here is that the Eldians, when they were in power, they had an empire and they oppressed other people. And something happens in the story, and then the Marleyans take over, and they now oppress the Eldians. But the way they oppress the Eldians is very interesting. They justify what the Eldians did in the past in order to oppress them in the present. In other words, like people who are born as an Eldian today, even though he didn't do anything at all, and even though his parents didn't do anything at all, they are still being oppressed as a way to punish them for what their ancestors did, not to anyone alive today, but to the ancestors of the people that were alive at that time. So it creates like these very interesting characters that are similar to the ones we saw on Twitter, where this guy is an Eldian, but because of his nobility and because of other storyline issues, he's actually quite powerful. He is higher up within Marleyan society. And like a couple of Eldians are honorary Marleyans, and they're managing to wield a lot of power and political influence. But his speech is very interesting. He says that he wishes for the extinction of all people like him, but he does not wish to die. I mean, self-preservation is still an important aspect of humanity. And as such, he's got like this irrational hatred for what he likes to call his blood. I mean, his ethnicity. And it's like really interesting because the reason this happens is because in that world, people from birth are being indoctrinated into this history, which, by the way, like half of it is true, half of it is made up. I mean, the Marleyans, when they realize that they can control the Eldians by weaponizing history against them, they keep on doing it. And there doesn't seem to be an end to it. Like, there doesn't seem to be a time when they will say, you know what, Eldians, like, you done enough. You paid for your ancestors' sins, so from now on, we're going to allow you to join our society. No. Okay, like, this does not seem to have an end in sight because it benefits the people in power. And this subjugation also benefits this Eldian person who hates his blood because he's got a position of power and privilege that he would normally not have if within normal Eldian society. Like, he would not be this higher up. He benefits from the oppression of other people that he calls his blood. So it's very interesting, you know, and I don't see this being portrayed in other media or other fiction. It's something that the writer of Attack on Titan deeply understands. And the whole ethos of the entire manga is about liberty and freedom. And you rarely get to see this as a virtue that's being portrayed in media in the present. Because now it's all about equality, it's all about escaping oppression, it's all about like any other thing other than liberty, like freedom, allowing the empowering the individual basically to make whatever decisions he wants. And I think like this is the core of Attack on Titan, and it's also why journalists from Polygon attack on Titan for being fascist. And this has nothing to do with fascism. I mean, yeah, sure, it's got like military elements, and military has like a strong hierarchy and a strong structure, but the manga overall has nothing to do with fascism. What it does have to do is with identity politics. And this is why people from Polygon despise it, because they don't want people to read the manga and notice this and say, you know what, like, this is a little bit messed up. This is like hating people that you've never met just because the way they were born. You know, this is not kind of right now, is it? It's not very fair. It's not very nice. I mean, I wouldn't like people to treat me like that. Why would I treat others like that? And this is why people who are progressives are trying to contain this, because they don't want this message to get out to the public. They want people to think, basically. They don't want this, as they're reading the manga, to start emphasizing with some of these characters and understand why it's a problem to hate someone because of the way they're born. And it goes against what we saw on Twitter. It goes against what the radicalization and the transforming of normal people into sociopaths. Because this is what I'm worried. You know, like a person like the one we saw before, I'm pretty sure like they're not an evil person, right? Like they probably have friends, they have a family, they like treating others with respect. And I'm pretty sure, like, they wouldn't actually send cis white dudes on a barge at sea, right? Like, they wouldn't be the ones pushing the barge. But I do think, like, if they're in a position of leadership, if they're in a position of power to do hiring practices, or if it just is about the signing a piece of paper that has a couple of numbers of people that will suffer, as long as it's the correct people, I don't think, like, that person will have any hesitation. You know, like, this is the actual problem and the actual issue. But, you know, let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section.